1968, it was kind of difficult for women to play. Nobody wanted to play with women. Everybody thought women shouldn't play. And this has persisted up until, I would say, into the late 80s, 90s. Well, it's been kind of a hard, long road with that. It's a lot better now. But when I got back, I got a death threat. I was going to be murdered if I ever taught any other women to play, etc., etc. But I persisted. I was one of the first women in the United States to play this drum.
Even when one can think that being a university professor is a situation of great privilege, and it is. I experienced at the University of San Francisco having to grieve for 7 years against the university who had hired me on a term appointment that would not give me any possibility of tenure while using my name, my curriculum, my experience to get from Washington funding for a bilingual program.
When I first got into media, which was accidental, it was a lot of pressure to try and make me not do what I do. I wanted to get the jazz in there and the calypso and all the rest of the stuff that I love, and I started slipping in there piece to piece, and everybody said, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. And I had a lot of negative pressure and sexist, racist kind of stuff that was going on. But my program is probably the only one that has been on, and we've been on for, I've been doing it for 40 some odd years. And so obviously it didn't work.
The things that I had to kind of aguantar at that point, questions, daily questions of what I was in the city of Philadelphia, where it's very black and white. You know, assumptions and racist things that professors would say to me. I once was asked if I was from El Salvador, as in El Salvador CA. That was actually a serious question. You know, I was asked what did I study in Chicano literature? Did I study newspaper articles about gangs? So the higher you get, the actually more fierce and difficult it gets to maneuver people's racism, people's assumptions about you as a woman and a woman of color.
For me, it's the trickled effect. It's all the things combined. It's walking down the street and somebody looking at you because you're different. It's going to school and being looked at as somebody different. Now your accent is different. The way you walk, you're different. What are you? You know, who are you? But I think a lot of it is, what are you? You know, what is your identity? As though I don't have one, you know.
Experiencing sexual abuse until the age of 6 by a family member. When I went to therapy myself, it was very eye-opening, very empowering. I felt that it was the first time in my life that I was allowed to speak out about the abuse.
I had a moment in my life when I was 13 years old that I was going through a lot of deep emotion, a lot of things happening in my surroundings where I got to the point that I felt that there was no other way out but to try and take my own life.
I come from a family of migrant farm workers. As a child, I worked in the fields. The last time I went to work in the fields, I was 17 years old, very young, a teenager. But I was out there with my parents and my brothers and sisters picking plums, strawberries, oranges.
Writing became a way for me to overcome all of the stuck emotions that I felt. I felt after my mother died, I was paralyzed, depressed for several years, and it was writing that pulled me out of that deep depression.
During that time, I visited the financial aid officer and went over my financial aid award and discovered that I did not have enough money to actually attend Davis, and there was no way that my mother could help me to make it. The counselor suggested that I consider coming back at a later time in my life.
I had a very sharp sense of injustice and sexism. My own family, I'm, 6 out of, the 6th youngest girl out of siblings of 7 with 1 boy, and we were always told that we didn't have to go to college because we'd get married and it would be a wasted investment.
Guillermo went through a lot. There was not integration of children with special needs. They were segregated. I really believed in mainstream. I wanted him to be around other children. He needed to hear the language and the songs and their laughter and their thinking for him to be able to develop into a productive citizen.
Tiempo, ¿verdad? Tratando de reconstruir, salvar lo que pudimos, lo que entre todo, ¿verdad? Hay cosas materiales, las cosas materiales van y vienen, pero las cosas personales, el trabajo de nosotros se perdió, el trabajo como profesores, mi biblioteca estaba destruida, tuve que volver a construirla.
But I think that healing is a process, and if you're in the midst of healing, you need to be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself, love yourself, let love and support come in. You don't have to do it all by yourself. I think that's the key. There's so many loving women that can support you on your path.